The zoning commission regular meeting for January 4th is called to order at 7:12. Please call the roll.
Marzullo.
Here.
Group. Here. Fisher.
Here.
Manley.
Here.
Kalis.
Here.
In the audience are trustees Engelmann, Sweattick, and Asherle, and zoning inspector Wilson.
All right, thank you. So we'll start by reviewing the regular meeting minutes from December 7th. Has everybody had a chance to read through?
Chair, before you do that, could you read the virtual option?
Yes, thank you. This meeting is being recorded for transcription purposes, and the written minutes and attachments, if any, will serve as the official record of this meeting. On behalf of our virtual audience, we ask the public joining us in person to approach the podium in the event that they would like to speak. They'll need to announce their name and address prior to speaking. Additionally, we ask the audience to save personal conversation for after the meeting, as additional voices can cause confusion for those attending virtually. Okay. And now we will get into the regular meeting minutes from December 7th. Has everybody had a chance to review them? And have there been any adjustments noted? Any changes from anyone?
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Moved by Ms. Crew. Anyone like a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Fisher. Please call the roll.
Marzullo.
Yes.
Group.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Manley.
Yes.
Kalis.
Yes.
In this case, you'd want to abstain because you weren't
I wasn't
at that meeting. You weren't a voting member.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor.
All right, and now we'll go through the staff report of the text resolution that we sent up to Medina County Planning Commission.
Chair, do we want to go to new business first, since we have a site plan? A lot of times we'll go through to get those people out of here first, and then it's up to you, but I think.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We'll not waste their time, get them in and out, and moving on. So we'll move at Mr. Fisher's request, we'll move the new business to the ahead of the old business, and that is going to be a preliminary site plan review of the estates at Prairie Vista. Has everybody had a chance to review the preliminary site plan for Prairie Vista? Everyone take a look at it yet? All right, and we have a representative from the developer group. Yes, sir. Want to please state your name?
Travis Crane, 1310 Sharon Copley Road, Davie Resource Group. Thank you very much for moving us ahead in the agenda. Greatly appreciate it.
Save you some time, right?
My day started at 7 a.m. today, so.
I can relate.
Mr. Chairman, is there a staff report you go through? I can't remember. Do you want me just to give a brief summary of the project?
Actually, looking through my stuff that I've got up here, why don't you start by letting me know a little bit more about the project?
Sure.
And I don't know that we have the staff report.
Yeah, it's in there.
This is a project south of Laurel Road off of West 130th Street, obviously on the east side of West 130th Street, because I think it's Brunswick Hills across the street from us. So we're complying with, I believe it's the R1 section of the code, 2-acre lots. It's a by right use. It's a permitted use.
What might confuse the thing is that originally this was called the Hollow at Willow Lakes. Is that?
It's a similar project. Yeah, we were in front of this board. I can't remember. I'm thinking it may have been 2 years ago, may have been longer than that.
But this is the same property and basically the same.
Yes,
present or the
yes,
submission. Okay,
yes, sir.
that's what I thought from my. Okay. I'm sorry, I just wanna make sure.
So we have 21 sublots, 2 acre minimum on roughly plus or minus 54 to 55 acres. It is just for the record, it is a private street that our client's proposing, not a public dedicated right away.
So that was actually my first question. So I'm glad that it does note that it's a private street. I didn't see in the engineering report, the county. I know that when the Village Oaks, the senior housing went in, there's a crowning of the street. And for public roads, they're crowning it, I think, this way. And for private, they're crowning it this way. And so they required that one to be crowned differently. And the purpose of that in part was to make sure that that road could never become a township road.
Mhm.
Have they said anything to you about that? Have you had any discussions about the road and how it's going to be formed yet?
So last night we were at the county planning meeting, so we did obtain approval for the preliminary plan for the Medina County Planning Commission. That was not an item that came up.
Okay.
We do have on the first page of the plan, page 1 of 3, we do have a proposed section. It is a 22-foot wide section. It is a crowned pavement section, but we are proposing an alternative pavement composition than Hinckley typically has for public roads. I think Hinckley requires a concrete pavement section. We're planning on doing asphalt for this.
I think our subdivision standard or subdivision standards still require the exact same requirements for private roads as they do public roads. Inspector, am I correct? So I think it still has to be concrete.
They typically don't. Usually when in the county subdivision regs, when they refer to that terminology of public or the private streets being comparable to public streets, usually it's in the roadway geometry, the horizontal curvature of the road, the vertical alignment of the road, and the road's general ability to support the needed traffic, fire trucks, trash trucks, safety service vehicles, things of that nature. I've been doing this for about 20 years. I don't think we've ever been held to the same material composition on a private street.
I think we'll have to check into that because I'm pretty confident. It's in the trustee resolution, not an article, that we do have a requirement that they have the same material. And I think that was part of senior housing as well, is that it had to, that's why their whole road is concrete, is they were required to make it concrete as a private street.
Okay.
But we'll check on that.
We've been doing concrete on that product for years too. So it may have been just circumstantial, but.
This doesn't have to come up now, obviously. Do you know yet whether it's going to be gated? And if so, I would make sure that you just submit that as part of your final site plan when you do the landscaping review.
It is something we are considering, and it might happen, but I appreciate you bringing that up. Yeah. So I'd assume that's something we'd probably want to have a discussion with the fire chief on before we made that decision.
The fire chief and the police services as well,
Yeah.
to make sure that they have access.
Sure.
To this area and gate. I think that the only other question that I had we dealt with water mitigation, the wetlands that are presently there. I know that was a concern that was raised yesterday at the planning commission as well by several of the residents who are joining this property. My understanding is that the lakes that are existing will remain, only be rebuilt based upon the requirements for the subdivision and to meet whatever the county engineer is requiring for the water to exit at the proper rate.
Yeah, the stormwater management requirements we have to adhere to both on the county level from the Medina County Highway Engineer and EPA are pretty strict. So we're proposing, there are currently 2 existing ponds on the property. We're going to use one for stormwater management. We're also building another stormwater basin on the east side of the property. Just a general practice is if water's flowing east, you want to keep it flowing east. And if water's flowing west, you want to keep it flowing west and trying to adhere to the existing watersheds. That's why there's 2 stormwater management basins.
And then the wetlands, you'll have to submit for the EPA to determine whether the EPA or Army Corps has any jurisdiction over the wetlands?
Submit to the Army Corps of Engineers to get our jurisdictional determination, which I believe has been done already. And then the next step is submit to either the EPA or the Corps, depending on who has jurisdiction over what wetland to get that permit.
Okay.
So we're using HZW as the consultant for wetlands on that, and they'll handle that.
Perfect. And I know it says it in here, but this will be city water and then city sewer.
Yes, sir.
And then you'll have a pump system. Will each home have an individual pump to the sewer?
Yes.
Okay. And then the road, since it's a private road, the HOA covenants will govern the road and the maintenance of the road and that sort of thing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then can you try to make sure that you have those as part of the final site plan so that those can be reviewed by legal
Yes.
before our final site plan?
And I see that there's the island in the cul-de-sac. I know the trustees had previously requested no islands. I don't know, trustee Engelman, kind of new and putting you on the spot here, but is that still the desire of the trustees to have no islands in cul-de-sacs? I know previously it was due to trying to get
Fire.
snow and fire removal.
More snow, I think, than
It was
anything else.
snow, but it's also gonna be a private street, so I don't know if it still applies.
So I will also say Rock Ridge also has an island in it. That's the new subdivision going in right now with no homes. That's got an island. We looked it up as part of that. And as long as the HOA is accepting responsibility for the island, my understanding is the subdivision standards are allowing an island.
Okay.
So that's our understanding also. I think there's been some discussion with the township in the past.
Mhm.
And our understanding is as long as the HOA takes maintenance ownership of that island, that I think the township permits it.
I think this was approved. I think that this one was approved.
Okay. And obviously, you know, in the staff report, we're also seeing the questions that Mr. Wilson submitted. And you already have the answers to a lot of these. The setback, I haven't even had a chance to really review it, but the 30-foot setbacks on lot one, is that already updated?
It's not updated on the plan, but we're aware of it. And it was a good catch by Mr. Wilson, and I think it was inaccurate. It was misinterpretation between what's a side and a rear yard.
Okay.
And that house will be addressed to the private street, therefore it makes the north lot will actually be the rear yard. Yeah. Typically it's, whatever, if you have a corner lot, whatever house, whatever street it's addressed to, the lot line behind that becomes the rear.
Yeah. All right, and then since this is a preliminary site plan, we can make sure that's just adjusted by the final site plan. Does anybody have any questions, any other questions for this preliminary site plan? And right now, what we'll do is go through the preliminary site plan submission requirements, just to make sure that they are all present. And then we can either approve or recommend modifications or deny it.
Do we want to let the members of the audience speak before we go through the checklist or after the checklist regarding this particular topic? It's up to you.
I'm happy to let people speak if they have objections or are in support of it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Please state your name and address and.
Yes, Alfred Lapointe, 2065 West 130th Street, Hinckley. My property borders the majority of the south part of the subdivision going in. As well as I have property in Brunswick Hills directly across the street from from said property. My concern is water. Historically, the land that they're building on is nothing but water. Historically, even during the dry months, there's a lot of water there. When the property was initially sold, I don't know, 2-3 years ago, there was a truck doing some sort of survey. I don't know what they were doing. I assumed a survey back there, got stuck. It was like a big GM truck or a Ford pickup truck, right? Big one. So they called the tow truck and the tow truck got stuck. They had to call a tractor trailer tow truck to pull it out. So this is how, and this was during the dry season. So there's a lot of water there. So my concern is not with the fact that there's homes going in, but where the water is flowing is a huge concern for me because I have horses and I have a mini farm. I don't want that flooded out. I already have water issues on my own, which we deal with. I don't need more. And when I went and presented to Medina County last night, they were like, yeah, we don't have the engineering final proof. We don't know, but they guaranteed me verbally that there would be less water coming into my property from this subdivision than more. So then I said, okay, but we'll see that in writing somewhere. And she said they wouldn't, they started talking amongst themselves at that point. But my concern is, I'm glad that there's stormwater basins being put in on the east side. I think that's great. But the big stormwater basin on the road where all the trees were cut out of, and there's like a 20-foot tree or 15-foot wide tree, this huge tree that was cut down. That's already full and it's full year round. How is that really going to catch any of the water? And there are other pond that's there as well. I'm confused. I understand the east side, that's great, they're building there, but I'm questioning that pond being able to handle more water because it's already full. And then let's say one of those ponds caves in, that house in that one lot that has this huge pond in front of it, or I don't know what it's called, I'm calling it a pond. What if that pond collapses? Who's responsible for correcting it? Is it the county? Is it Hinckley Township? Is it the resident that owns that property at that point? Because that'll affect my property across the street, as well as it could affect all the other properties around it. Because water travels fast and we get torrential rains here. And that's where my concern lies. And I really don't see anybody giving me any comfort knowing that I'm not, when this subdivision's in and everybody's gone, I'm going to be coming to you guys and you guys are going to say, buyer beware. And I'm a resident. So I need to understand what all this means. And if it's going to be in the final one, please make sure it really is, instead of just appeasing me to walk away. I'm not saying that's what you do, so don't take it that way. But I'm just concerned about water runoff. And I don't know that that's really been considered to the point where how much water is really back there, and all of the land surrounding it has a ton of water. So the little bit of impact you're going to make in one area is going to definitely impact everyone around there. Okay.
Thank you. Is there anything you would like to say regarding the stormwater runoff?
Do you have any specific questions?
Just, I mean, is there any way we can kind of appease some of his concerns? I know we can do a downriver water study.
But Medina County even questioned who would own the catch basins after the property is built up, and no one could answer the question.
Okay.
So that should be a concern as well.
So typically the HOA takes responsibility for management and maintenance of stormwater facilities. There is a requirement when the plat's filed that the county will have a right to do that maintenance if the HOA fails to. But the primary responsibility falls on the HOA for stormwater management basins historically.
Is that in there? The association,
It'll be in the HOA documents.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be in the HOA document that you submit with all of the plans, or is it gonna be? when-
Yes, it'll be in the
Will
document.
we
The
see it
documents
as a
have to
public
be,
before you rubber stamp it?
yes.
You won't
We don't rubber
necessarily,
stamp.
no, you could make a public records request for it. It won't be, we don't just post it online or something where you would have access to it, but you're welcome to
I guess
inspect
what I'm
it.
asking is what kind of assurance, other than what we just talked about now, that we're gonna have that's actually gonna be in there?
So
I'm just saying,
No.
it's just,
no, totally understand.
They're typically in every one. I mean, that's it's standard operating procedure.
And when the Army Corps of Engineer blesses off on if they bless off, when they bless off on it, that is ensuring that the water flow is no different than it used to be. So it should not, they will require an engineering study to actually show, all right, the water is not going to leave the property. It's not going to flood your property. It's not going to flood your neighbors or the northern neighbor. It will go where it's supposed to go, into catch basins or into the roadside ditches, and travel without having.
okay. I'm gonna give you an example of why I'm concerned with this. It's not the building, it's just, I've lived through this. I used to live in Cuyahoga County, okay? All these engineers, all these things you're talking about, we had it. And in my property, I had a catch basin probably the size of this parking lot. It'll never flood, never. Well, never happened. And I had to pay out of pocket to have a new wall built to catch the water. And I was the property owner. And what I was told by the county was buyer beware. And that's why I'm asking, who's going to own responsibility for that one that never comes? Who's actually going to be responsible for it? That's what I'm asking.
And I think part of that will depend upon what's causing it, right? The water is supposed to flow a natural way. And I think that your plan will require, you're still required to maintain the natural flow of the water. You're allowed to collect it. They're allowed to slow release it. They're required to slow release it, but the water still has to flow in the same direction that it's
Correct.
flowing now. So they can't do anything that's going to change that flow of the water.
I'm not asking that. I'm saying the water's flowing this way, okay? It's flowing downhill, whatever, however you want to word it. So what happened to us was that it was flowing, and because we started getting more rain than we normally do, that flow filled it up so quickly. It may be natural, but that wall, if it's too fast, is going to shatter. That's what I'm saying. Who's responsible for it at that point? I'm not trying to be a jerk about it or anything. I'm just trying to understand that because it's going to impact me when that happens. And I need to know who do I go after because my property will be affected by it.
Ultimately, it would be something that the HOA is going to be responsible for maintaining those storm management basins. And they, as a development company, will be looking at, all right, how do we keep the water on this property going through our storm management system? Now, if there is too much rain, if it's 100-year flood.
Well, they're happening more frequently than you realize. But anyways, I know what you're saying.
And ultimately what it comes down to is we, as a zoning commission, cannot impose on them more stringent
I'm not
standards.
asking for that. I'm asking who's responsible. That's all I'm asking.
It would be, it's really probably, it would be no different than if, my neighbor and I both have giant ponds on our lots. If one of those walls gave way, whether it's a subdivision or whether it's an individual, well, you would go after the HOA, who is the primary responsibility for that would be the HOA, and those homeowners would be the primary responsibility. Now, Medina County can step in and do the repair, or Medina County can be involved to force the HOA to do something. But there's really no difference between a pond that's in an HO or in a community and a pond that's owned by a landowner.
I guess the difference is I'm one of the residents that is affected by it and I know better, so I'm asking. So I'm not asking that someone give me, I'm just saying, something will happen at some point, and if it does, what's my recourse as the guy downhill?
Frankly, we're not attorneys.
No, I'm not asking you to be an
So
attorney. I'm asking
no,
you
but
a
you're asking us
relation.
who is responsible for it, which is a legal question. We can't tell you, all right, well, in this hypothetical situation, you should go after this person, which
Okay.
is exactly what you're asking.
Yeah.
Who do I go after?
Yeah.
We cannot provide that
Okay,
kind
we
of
can't provide
guidance.
Okay, so we go after the HOA, they go bankrupt, and then, okay, all right. I'm more worried about damage to my property and the water flow. And right now, I'm not really comfortable with the whole situation, and I know that doesn't matter to you, but it matters to me.
I think it does
Certainly.
matter. It's just that we're not the experts on this. But I will say,
But
did
you're
you?
working with the experts. I'm asking. do you
It
work
just,
with the
I don't know if
experts?
this makes you feel any, it matters to me. It's my job. We have to get this job
I appreciate
permitted.
that. Right now, the
So, but
judge-
I am not an attorney, so I can't answer your question on, who do you go
I
after,
understand
so.
it matters to you, But
Yeah.
last night, someone said that was representing you guys, that you guys were rebuilding the wall or something like that to catch the storm basins. I don't know if
I
that's
don't-
accurate or not. You mentioned that I don't remember the exact wording that was used that during the
Mhm.
meeting. But what I'm getting at is, I'm not expecting you to fix the problem tonight. I'm just trying to understand as a property owner, I have to be concerned.
Mhm.
I have almost 13 acres that can be affected by it. And then I have almost another 3 acres across the street that's gonna be affected by it. I just need someone to just give me some assurances that you understand what I'm talking about, because once you build that, you're gone.
So if
So I'm trying
I,
to figure out,
if I may interject here. So you're saying you want someone to tell you,
no, I'm asking, I'm not telling you to tell me. No.
but
Do you-
you're
do you-
asking for an expert's opinion. An expert is giving you his opinion and you're discounting it.
No, I didn't discount anything you said.
He's telling you that the water is gonna stay on here. It's gonna be managed by these stormwater management basins.
Okay.
And you're saying, no, it's not.
No, I'm
It's
saying
gonna be an
what-
issue for me
What I said
in
was,
5 years.
right now, I know you're concerned, but when the properties are all sold out, it's not your issue anymore.
Mhm.
That's what I said. I didn't say.
But it actually still is his issue because, Mr. Crane, you've been working in this area. Your office is right on 18, right?
We're in Sharon Center, right off the
Okay.
circle in Sharon
So I
Center.
mean, he's local and he works local. So the last thing he's gonna wanna do is destroy your 13, 16 acres and then have a bad reputation, a bad name when he goes to do another project. It's very important to him that these projects work well.
Do you have a copy of this preliminary plan from yesterday's meeting?
Yes.
Okay, in that there's 2 contacts that I think that you should have a communication with. One would be the Medina County engineer. His contact number, his name and his number is listed there. The other one that I would suggest that you contact is the Medina Soil and Water. His contact information is also listed there. Those 2 people will be far better subject matter experts on this from a county level and can explain to you the process for what happens if an HOA goes bankrupt, what happens if an HOA dissolves, what happens if there's a breach, who's responsible. They'll be able to give you far more guidance in that area than we will, because we're more focused on the zoning aspects of it, not on the engineering aspects of it. The engineering aspects are really governed by those experts at the county level. And so I would have conversations with those, both of their names, their numbers and their email addresses are listed in this report. And that's where I would start.
Okay, all right.
Do HOAs typically carry insurance policies?
Yes.
Some do, some don't, as we found.
Correct.
There's some state regulations too.
We are required to carry it. Our HOA is required to carry a $2 million insurance policy as part of that. And we have 4 leaks.
Right.
And one of the things that we're requiring now for the final site review is a copy of the HOA.
Yes.
We weren't requiring that on
Could-
everyone.
That's kind of what I was
So
asking.
that's-
Where's all this
That is
gonna
going to be
documented?
required.
That'll
at the
come
final
Could I make a
site.
suggestion that you get a hold of the office with your name and address and ask for a copy of the final draft, the final plan, once it's approved here?
Okay,
They can make that available to you and notify you that they have it. But you have to put that in writing to them.
okay. Fair enough.
And
That's the
email
county.
is sufficient. No,
He's referring
Right
to
here.
our office.
To Suzanne, or
Suzanne?
Peter Land. If you put her again in writing and notice, I'm sure she'll do that.
Again, just so you understand, the reason why I'm concerned is the property across the street from me, the whole frontage has been wiped out a couple of times now because of rainwater from that property. So that's what sparked this.
Sure.
It's like it's tearing it apart.
and I don't want you to think any of us don't, it's your home.
Yeah.
Yeah, so believe me, I
It's
do
an
understand.
investment for us.
Yes,
I mean,
yeah,
that's
we,
why we bought the property across the street.
yes,
And-
It's a
so,
big investment.
And every single major project that happens in Hinckley Township, almost the number one concern of the residents that surround it is water.
Well, yeah.
Almost every single water well.
Northeast Ohio is nothing but water.
and
Water tables are very high here, so. we
Yeah,
don't
I'm
have much
worried
water.
about, you're gonna find, there's clay pipes under the soil that feed the water through our property to that property,
Mhm.
like from 100 years ago from the farmers. So there's water running in every direction. So you gotta understand where my concern is. Again, I'm not worried about the subdivision. You're just bringing up my property values. But on top of that, I have to worry about the water.
I understand, and that's part of our job, and there'll be extensive calculations, extensive back and forth with the county engineer, probably a 3 to 6 month process after this for both improvement plans, which, we take a 3-page set of plans, and there'll probably be 30 to 50 pages of plans and another half an inch to an inch of calculations of stormwater.
One more question on the sewer that you're putting in.
Mhm.
I'm assuming it's going from that subdivision to the new one that was just across the street?
Yes,
Which side of the street are you digging up to put the sewer?
I think there's a manhole on the west side of 130th on the north side of that project.
Okay.
So we'll be discharging into that manhole. Now, whether we will have to jump across the street at some point to get to the east side of West 130th. Where that happens, I'm not sure yet, but it'll all take place in the right of way of West 130th Street, West 130th Street.
Okay. All right, thank you.
This answered one of my questions.
if you wouldn't mind, please, introduce yourself and give us your address.
That's a quickie.
Great.
Dean Pape, 2065 West 130th. We're talking about that wall, the catch basin. It has already collapsed years ago, a muskrat. And if any of you have history on that, it is possible that wall will, if there's another muskrat, and that is going to come across again onto the Brunswick Hills, which is us. And our swales, they're 4 feet already. A lot of water is shooting across under the road from your future. We need plans. I called engineer, we have to go with the flow. Well, the flow is just eroding. And after a while, this isn't natural because it's creating this one and now it's on top of the property. And then somebody came out and put another pipe in for the other neighbor underneath his driveway. It's just too much water at one time, creating new, and that's not natural. It's just too much water coming from the future development in that pond. That pond is draining right now. I don't know if you're draining it or not, but there's 2 drains on that one going this way for overflow, and then the wall is already washed out on the other end. There's constantly water running off of that property. I don't know if there's a natural spring underneath that property or what, but like Al said, we get water constantly from the backyards. It goes through all of your property, across ours, across Scott, our other neighbor. We have water all year round. I'm just wondering, how are you going to get a house? Is there a natural spring anybody aware of on the property for the future?
We have no understanding of the actual property. And I have not personally done a site visit. I don't know if anyone else has. This is a new plan that's just being presented to us.
Gotcha.
But to that, unfortunately, I wish that Mr. Bindoff would come and say whether his
Yes,
property has
exactly.
had less water or more water since that subdivision went in. But generally, the subdivisions are normally helping due to a more slow release of that water. I think Travis says that your experience that when you develop these, you're
Typically, I
generally seeing.
try not to say that or promise that, but that tends to be the
That tends
case
to be
in
the-
terms of the flow rates leaving a project post-development are usually less than pre-development.
So again, that there's no promises on that, but normally what you see is the subdivision will help that water control.
One of your diagrams show,
So currently that property is, call it a vacant property, but it's not being utilized. So now there's an opportunity here for that HOA to take ownership of that dam. The HOA will be maintaining the dam. There'll be a construction process. We'll have to review the integrity of that dam. If the county engineer says we need to retrofit that dam, we'll retrofit that dam.
Can you please,
Um,
excuse me, sir, if you're gonna be talking, please.
I'm sorry.
wait Until
I know, I'm sorry.
one conversation time, so we can all focus on. Thank you.
I mean, I've heard some concerns about that dam. Now is the opportunity to evaluate that dam. There'll be eyes on that dam. If we need to retrofit the dam will be retrofitted.
So any reinforcements to that dam, you guys would take care of during the development process,
Mhm.
which
And, yeah, I was equate the
delay if a wall were to.
the analogy I try to use, stormwater management is like a bathtub. You're intentionally clogging the drain.
Mhm.
And the water coming in is the water coming in, and we're using rainfall data to determine what's coming in that basin. We're going to create some freeboard, what we'll refer to as freeboard. So if the pond right now is at the top of the dam, we'll create the required freeboard to handle that water coming in, catches it like that bathtub, and purposely clogging it up a little bit by design, controlling the different holes in that structure so it releases at a slower rate. And then, it rains and then slowly drops down, and accommodates that. And that's all based on the requirements the county has, the rainfall data we have to use. They've updated their rainfall data, but we can only work with the data we have.
So what's confusing to me was last night, I'm not saying you said this because you weren't there. Someone that represented you said that there was going to be some reinforcement of that wall.
There would probably be some retrofitting of the outlet
Whatever the exact
structure.
terminology
Yeah,
is,
so it's, and
they
it's,
did tell that to Medina County, but you're saying if it's needed.
well,
They were making it sound like it was needed, but I don't know.
I don't know if it's needed.
You had to
so,
have been there.
Yeah.
I get it, but they represented you guys, so I'm assuming they talked on your behalf. So that's what was said. It was, if you're recording like you're doing here, you'd hear
Okay, I'm sorry, and you were saying?
Do you mind?
Sure.
This is what, like, so does our. We have over 8 acres flowing this way.
It's not, that's not 8 acres now is flowing that way. That's 8
No, we
acres.
have all of this flowing now.
Okay, but you're saying that, okay, we're gonna have 8 acres flowing towards our house when this is developed.
Correct, well, that's what
That is the.
Those
current
arrows are
flow.
showing current flow, okay?
correct.
That's the.
Yeah, you refer to page 3 of the plan?
The future will kind of mirror that,
Mhm.
because again, you have to flow in the natural pathway of the water. But those arrows right now are showing you what's the current flow as well. So it's not changing the flow.
It's not increasing the flow through your property at all. That's gonna be, that is the requirement of the actual development of these plants. And that's why they have the engineers, that's why they get approved by the county.
And that's a general schematic of the current drainage pattern of the property. So, to get an understanding to the boards that we're in front of, both the county, the township, that, hey, this is being thought about, and we do have these basins in strategic locations to address what's going on currently on the property.
And just because I could use some education on it. When you guys are doing these developments, you're taking what is permeable and non-permeable ground and determining, all right, how much more water is going to be coming out because of this structure, this driveway, this road. And that's how you actually get into the engineering aspect of, all right, well, what's the total additional volume of water that we need to, that we need to account for? Is that-
That's generally correct. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you want me to get into detail about it or.
I would actually love it, but I think most people would fall over asleep. Because I know, and much to the homeowner's concerns, I totally understand, like,
Mhm.
look, when we have all this vegetation here, that's gonna slow down how much water is coming off. It's gonna consume a lot of this water, but then once you put concrete there, concrete doesn't slow it down, concrete doesn't consume it. And that's where the storm water management and the engineering flow of it. actually comes into
That's what we refer to as the curve number variable. It's called the CN value. The higher the number, the less pervious the ground is. So concrete's probably 98, 99. You know, a
But if it's
mature
clay-
woods, a
if it's
mature woods
clay
is,
Substrate,
Yeah.
then that's gonna have a much higher end factor than your.
CN value.
Yeah, CN,
Yeah.
than like a silt or something like
Yeah,
that.
you know, there's mostly it's the ground cover that has the biggest impact.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
woods, you know, mature trees are gonna absorb more water than concrete, right? But
Yeah.
then within that variable, there's 4 class A, B, C, D zones of analyzing the type of dirt you're dealing with.
Mhm.
So, you know, woods with a A value has a different infiltration rate than a woods with a D value. So that's one of the biggest variables in terms of what we look at. And the other one, obviously, the biggest one is really your acreage.
Yeah.
How much acreage is the rain dropping on? And then the third variable is what we refer to as time of concentration, and that's how long it takes water to get from the extreme distance from a time standpoint, which might not necessarily be the same as a distance standpoint. So what's the longest time to get from one end of the watershed to the outlet point, pre and post development? And all those calculations are done, what's happening right now and what's going to happen, you know, when we're done. And we're comparing those deltas and those differences to see, you know, what is the volume and what are the flow rates, and managing the flow rates.
So one of the things, so you're saying that vegetation is kind of the largest determinant of the
Yeah.
CN value. So one of the things you said was fully developed trees. So is there a difference between deciduous and coniferous?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
And then
No,
I guess-
not in this
I guess
calculation.
kind of the reason I'm also asking that is, you know, a lot of people like to have large landscaping areas,
Mhm,
potentially with a lot of mulch.
mhm.
Does that affect it if they have a larger landscaped area as opposed to just plain lawn?
So the curve number we use, which is the infiltration rate for post-development, it's what they refer to in the manual as a composite number. So we're not looking at it as granular, as like how much mulch somebody has. That number is defined on, hey, what is that number for 2-acre sublots compared to what is that number for, you know, apartments at 20 units per acre, right? And it varies all the way through there. What is that number for a commercial development for a Walmart, right? And so you're not looking at each house and saying that has this much sidewalk, this much deck, each was small. There's a general curve number we use for 2-acre sublots.
Right.
And that accounts for, you know, future houses, you know, assuming there's grass, you know, and then there's, you know, what the pavement is, that type of situation.
Awesome. Thank
And
you.
we're comparing that to what the existing conditions are. And this property, I don't think the delta is going to be that great. You know, if this was all wooded and it was mature woods, we'd have a really low curve number to start with. But this is, you know, formerly agriculture, which has a fairly high curve number in itself.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions, comments? Please.
Once they start digging, what about all the old clay tiles underground? What do you do when you start breaking all of those?
County engineer has standard notes for stormwater management that we'll have in every plan. I think the rule is if you hit a clay tile, the contractor, whether it's when they're building a house or when they're building the road, is supposed to attach that clay tile and put it into the drainage system.
Okay. Thank you.
And if I can just, Mr. Crane, with your documents that you provided with the preliminary amendment, you did provide at least the preliminary.
We did
covenant and
draft documents, yeah.
So, yeah, so that references the public street, not the private street, and there's no reference to private streets at all and maintenance of
So
those.
those are draft in nature. I understand. I appreciate the comment, but those will be refined, and, you know, this board will review them. The county planning commission will review them. I believe the county prosecutor reviews them. Those will be reviewed in detail also.
Just wanted to make sure you didn't
Yeah.
think, well, I've submitted it. and it's
Correct,
okay, 'cause
yeah.
it Doesn't look like it's sufficient.
All right, if there are no further comments from the public, we can move forward with the preliminary site plan submission requirements. This is a checklist that we're going through just to see whether or not the developer has come up with these specific items. It doesn't mean that they meet the zoning commission or the zoning resolution, just simply present or not present in their actual submission. Property location map, which is here. Location of existing structures within the development area and access points, yes. The general location of existing buildings, parking and access drives on parcels with 100 feet, within 100 feet of the site, yes. A topographic survey of the proposed development area with contour lines at 2-foot intervals. The one I'm looking at has 5-foot intervals.
I think
But that's the large one that was printed out for us.
yeah, this one right here,
That's got
this
two.
one's got two, because you're
Okay.
220 to 230 right there with
All right,
at least 5 lines between.
thank you. All right, so that's a yes. Existing major vegetation features, wooded areas and large isolated trees 1 foot or more in diameter. And that was also included. Location of wetlands as depicted on a delineation produced by a professional wetland specialist licensed by the state of Ohio. The floodplain boundary and floodplain elevation as delineated by the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Rivers and streams and the related river or stream bank, ponds, and water courses. I believe I saw that one. That's in there.
Yeah, it's in here.
And delineation of existing drainage patterns on the property, yes. Existing wells and well sites, yes. The general location.
There are no wells.
I don't believe there are.
Yeah, I didn't see any. Go ahead.
The general location of development areas identified by use, including any fee simple lots and restricted open space areas, if part of the proposed project. I don't believe there are any, correct?
There are no open space
All right.
blocks.
The general layout of the proposed circulation system for vehicles and pedestrian, other proposed public ways, access points, and the parking and service system. It's the one private road. Summary table showing total acres of the proposed development, the number of acres devoted to each type of use, including streets and open space, and the number of dwelling units by type. That's there. Proposed phases of the project. If the project is to be completed in stages indicating the phases during which any common facilities are anticipated to be constructed. This is one phase. All right. The following items are, well, that's
Not
not applicable. And any other reasonable information as the township commission may require in order to evaluate the general concept of the proposed development. I would say that all of those are currently present. And as such, I think that means we can either approve the site plan as permitted, or unless anyone on the commission has things that they would like addressed and submit back to the developer. Were you about to say something, Mr. Fisher?
I was just gonna make the motion to approve the preliminary site plan.
All right, moved by Fisher,
Second.
seconded by Crew. Please call the roll.
Marzullo,
Yes.
Crew,
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Manley,
Yes.
Felix,
Yes.
All right, motion passes.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
If you don't have a copy of this, it's on the planning commission's website.
And anything that we discuss, anything that you see us looking through on as the commission, you can always do a records request and it will be made available to you. That's no problem at all.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, let's head back to the old business, if everyone's comfortable with that. So the old business is gonna be running through the, all of the proposed text amendments. Did everybody have a chance to review the planning commission's notes?
I think that they were pretty favorable. They caught a couple grammatical errors, which we can point out. They liked our, the removal of the institutions of human care. They were also happy with the removal of the group homes and family homes. They didn't provide any additional feedback with regards to the automotive service and repair because they had already done that in 2021. But they also didn't have any negative feedback with respect to that. So overall, I was very pleased with the results of the planning commission.
I think I noticed one note. I think it was actually in, I'm sorry, I'm looking through the wrong one here. There's too many dang handouts tonight. It was regarding the institutions of human care. I believe it was our intention to remove it, and it looked like they said basically the same thing. That it wasn't noted anywhere else in the
Right. Yeah.
but it seemed like there was another part where they were telling us to remove it later on.
The only thing I saw that was actually truly a mistake is on section 9.2. So this is page 8 of the staff report.
Yeah.
Where they noted that there was an incomplete sentence. So they told us to fill that in if that's what you're referring to.
Yeah.
So other than that, the family homes was on page 5 of the planning commission report, and they just said staff supports removing this text as an accessory use because it allows more than one residential
That's okay.
structure.
So that's where I was misreading it because we had already made that recommendation. They're just saying, yeah, we agree, and
Good.
we're a little verbose. All right. Are there any questions or anything that anybody wants to add in after reading through the planning commission?
I have a couple specific things. If we just want to do a share screen and go through the text quickly, and then we'll hopefully
Be able to-
not be too long with this. And there were a few other comments I received along the way, so I just wanted to bring those to your attention. Staff noted that parking facilities, this wasn't our fault, but facilities that was misspelled, so I just corrected the table of contents and also 9.2's header moving forward. That was as a result of this planning commission staff report. There was a suggestion, and I think it's a valid suggestion, to change refueling and recharging station to just fueling and charging station. You normally purchase a charging station for electric vehicles, and so it to me made sense, but don't really care one way or the other. It was just a suggestion to get rid of the re. Anyone strongly opposed to that, or?
All right, so the one question I want to clarify before we start making any edits. If we do make additional edits, do we then have to have another public hearing?
We're allowed to recommend additional modifications,
Okay.
just as the trustees will be able to
And I
make modifications.
think we only went with refueling and recharging station because it's grammatically correct, but I
Yes.
don't care one way or the other. It doesn't matter to me. We can go with fuel
Fuel and charging?
Yeah.
Perfect. Last night at the meeting, it was brought up that body and fender is somewhat antiquated and they normally just call it repair at this point. So they suggested changing it to including paint and collision repair as opposed to paint, body and fender repair. So that was just a suggestion. I didn't have any problem with it. I don't think it meaningfully changed the scope of what we were attempting to do there. That was already one that we had made. Everything that you see in blue is our proposed amendments. The red is the new text that I've made. So nothing there, nothing with respect to living area and how we define that. Nothing with respect to the definition of a non-conforming lot, I don't believe. Nothing with respect to that. That was grammatical.
Can you go? I'm sorry, go back to the last one. I saw something that
Is 12?
the sign roof that it's underlined there, E.
That's because it's just a I don't think that they like that word, but that's just the spell checker.
Yeah.
And grammar checker.
All right.
The planning commission, the staff report actually said, move the period to inside of the quote, which I think is grammatically potentially correct. But when I looked at how we've done it elsewhere throughout the book, we've done street public inside it and then put the period after the quotes. So I think we should just keep that for consistency. That was just something they flagged. So I'm going to reject that comment and leave it as we've proposed it as opposed to amending that. That's just one of the words that we already had in there. Same thing, nothing there. There was a question that was brought up about why this was just some feedback that I received. Why are we removing from this section? What we say is that for purposes of calculating the living area, all areas within, and it used to say basements, garages, breezeways, terraces, or porches, and any accessory building or structure shall not be included. We removed all of that language, basement, garages, breezeways, terraces, or porches, and why do we remove that? And the answer to that is because that's already within the definition of a living area. So we really don't want to have that noted in two different spots because it's very easy for future commissions to change it in one spot and forget to change it in another spot. So it's just better to remove it. So that's why we just left, for purposes of calculating the living area, all areas within any accessory building are also excluded. But that doesn't, there's no meaningful change in scope because all those other things are already excluded by definition. Just some comment that we had, I wanted to explain again why we were doing that. Again, no changes to any of those things, so that's why it's going fast. Here, I've just changed the refueling and recharging again to fueling and charging. Okay, with respect to the restoration of damaged buildings or structures, this is where we changed it from such restoration shall commence within a period of 2 years. It used to say be completed within 2 years. And I think, the chair already explained why we did that for primarily because it might take more than 2 years for, or up to 2 years for them to get their insurance through processing. There was a question as to, there's no requirement for the completion because we removed the completion. My comment on that would be that our zoning certificate, which they have to obtain, expires in 2 years. And so we already have a commencement within 2 years, and then the certificate would expire within 2 years. And then if they wanted to apply again, they'd have to get another zoning certificate. And I think that would trigger a variance. They would have to get a variance because their project would no longer commence within 2 years. But that would be the question is, do we want to impose some hard deadline for completion of that project, or do we just want to follow exactly what we follow for other homes that are built and we don't have any required completion timeframe? We just, for this, have a commencement timeframe. It was a comment that was made and just something I want to raise.
Personally, I think we just treat it the same way we treat every other home. Your home burned down, we're not going to give you, all right, build it back at by this date. We don't do that with anyone that wants to build on their property. Then, all right, we're saying, all right, you're going to commence within 2 years. And then if it takes 2 years to build the home, and that's a great opportunity for the zoning inspector and the zoning board of BCA to look at it and say, okay, yeah, they're making reasonable progress, or sorry, we can't approve it anymore.
That was my sentiment as well. I just wanted to make sure that the commission was aware of that comment because I thought it was a useful comment. Again, this was the comment of the Planning Commission. Facilities was misspelled in 9.2. This was a comment by the staff on the staff report that we had deleted a portion that we shouldn't have deleted. So at the very end, it said will be used. So I just reintroduced will be used here because it was an incomplete sentence without that incorporation. So it says for floor area, where floor area is designated as the standard for determining parking space requirements, public floor area will be used instead of just public floor area, which isn't, again, correct. Any comments on that before I move on? Someone noticed that this 3 had not been deleted. That will be deleted automatically as part of formatting. It's just that in a track change version of a Word document, I can't delete that 3. It's just won't go away. So that will be fixed when Suzanne prepares the final document. Again, just changing refueling and recharging to fueling and charging. Same thing. Nope, let me make sure I don't think I missed anything. Nope, that's the one. These are all, that was it. So those were the only changes that were made relative to the text as we had previously reviewed and approved of it.
Thank you for running through that, all the work you put into it. So if there's no further comment on that, I mean, I think we've put enough time and effort into this. We've got enough of the response from planning commission. We can probably forward this on to the trustees and have them have their public hearing and amend the zoning resolution. So if anybody wants to make a motion.
I move that we move this on to the trustees for their review and recommendations or acceptance.
As amended with.
As modified or
Yep.
amended.
Yep, correct.
Second.
Second by Ms. Crew. Please call the roll.
Marzullo?
Yes.
Crew?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Kalis?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. So that kind of takes care of the entire agenda. So I'm not prepared for a chairman's report, so I guess.
Well, you just read that one line that's there.
The next regular zoning commission meeting for February 1st is scheduled for February 1st, 2024 at 7 o'clock. Ms. Crew, do you have anything?
I do not have anything.
Mr. Fisher?
No.
Mr. Manning?
No, not at this time.
No, sir.
All right. Ms. Engelmann?
Nope.
Nothing. Mr. Wilson? Anything more?
That's fine. Thank you.
All right, well, with
The other
that
two
being said-
trustees?
Other two trustees, anything? No? All right. With that being said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Fisher, seconded by Crew. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, none opposed, and we're adjourned at 8:15.
Uh-huh.
We got a lot done.
For a text amendment,